Hello, and welcome to the Steps to Happiness show on Soul Livity TV. I'm your host, Teresa Greco, happiness coach, author, editor, writer, educator, and Reiki master. Are you ready to feel the love, peace, and happiness that exists within you? Then the Steps to Happiness show is for you. On my show, my guests and I explore the latest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being practices that can help to realign you with the happiness within you. The happiness principle for today's show is understanding our purpose. Have you ever wondered what your true purpose is? This is a question that appears to plague many of us. When I began my happiness journey 10 years ago, I had taken a step back to reevaluate my life and ask myself some pretty important questions. Questions such as, am I happy living the life I am living? Is this all there is to life? And am I living my life's true purpose and full potential? I felt as though something was missing. There was a void within me that no matter what I did, bought, earned, or achieved, could not be filled. The thought did occur to me that perhaps this void was linked to me not living my true purpose. Professionally and personally, I had achieved all the things that society, culture, religion, and family said I needed to have a happy life. A fulfilling career, 2 healthy kids, our own home, cars in the driveway, vacation a year, lots of beautiful material things. So if my life checked off all the boxes, why is it that I felt unhappy with my life? There was this feeling that I needed to be more so that I could do more for others, and then maybe I feel fulfilled. I was running on what's known as the satisfaction treadmill, which is when we continuously shift our goals upward once we've reached them, and we've got to keep running in order to feel satisfied again. But despite the more certificates, degrees, and job experiences I got, I still felt I wasn't enough and I needed to be more than who I was. Once again, I questioned if how I was feeling was due to the fact that I wasn't living my purpose. However, what I needed to begin questioning was society's notion of what true purpose really is. Many are on the quest to discover their life's purpose and are turning to books and weekend retreats and purpose coaches for guidance. But the truth is, no one can tell you what your true purpose is. Although they might offer you strategies that can help you to narrow down what activities you enjoy, but it's more than just one single thing that you came down here to experience. Also, what about if it was more about feeling on purpose than it was about your true purpose? The feeling of being on purpose is where in any moment you feel like you are in the right place at the right time. You feel happy, and there's a knowing inside you that says you're exactly where you need to be in this exact moment. We feel on purpose at many different times in our lives because purpose isn't tied to one single activity, but rather it is associated with a feeling while participating in various activities at different points in our life. For example, to be on purpose might mean that while your kids are young, you're happy being a mother and your life is revolving around them and their activities. But once they're older, then you might feel on purpose by returning into the workplace and doing a job that makes you happy. So purpose is not about searching for one thing that will fill the void within us, but more about feeling happy and on purpose participating in various activities throughout our entire life. This is where happiness works like a compass. to help direct us to when we are on purpose, when we are in alignment with our true and authentic selves. We feel love, we feel at peace and happy. These are emotions that are an indicator of when we are aligned with the things we wanted to accomplish in this lifetime. As spiritual beings having a human experience, our soul knows what we came here to learn. And when we are on purpose, we know that we are living the life we wanted to lead. If we're not feeling happy in our lives, we need to ask ourselves whether we feel on purpose doing the things we do every day. Do we feel authentic? Do we feel like we're living our true selves? Or are we living our lives with many shoulds and have tos, to where we find ourselves saying, I should do this because my parents expect this of me, or I have to do this because that's what a good daughter does. It is impossible to feel on purpose and be inauthentic at the same time. If you check in with your happiness at any moment, your emotions will let you know whether you are on purpose in that moment or not. Through the various principles and practices I adopted on my happiness journey, I came to realize that my lack of happiness and fulfillment with my life and the feeling that something was missing didn't stem from me not living my true purpose. The truth of what was missing in my life was the real me. I was not living as my true authentic self, but rather as the person I thought other people wanted me to be. And trying to be the perfect wife, mother, daughter, sister, employee, friend, or whoever I needed to be, I wasn't living my truth. I now know that my understanding of purpose, which I came to understand from others, needed to be adjusted. I no longer needed to search for my true purpose, but instead to check in with myself at any given moment and ask myself whether I feel on purpose with what I am doing. And I use my happiness as a guide. On today's show, my guests and I will be discussing this idea of purpose even further and redefining what true purpose is so that we can live lives where we feel on purpose instead. With that being said, I'd like to welcome my first guest on the show. He's a multiple time TEDx speaker, international best-selling author and writer, and the host of the top-rated Conversations with Passion radio show. Corey Poirier, hello and welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Teresa. I am super excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this all day. I'm super stoked.
Thank you. Me too. Me too. Now, Corey, I know that you like talking about purpose and helping people to find what theirs is. And so I wanted to talk to you today about redefining what our understanding of purpose is. That, there's this idea out there or this notion around purpose that it is something that we need to find. It is something that we need to discover. And it was one of my own personal questions that I asked myself 10 years ago when I started my happiness journey, that if there's this feeling that something was missing, and that even though I had done and accomplished so many different things, I always felt that there was this void. And so it had me thinking, well, am I living my life's true purpose and full potential? Because why is it that the more degrees I get, more certificates, more job experiences, it didn't matter what I was doing, I always felt that there was something missing. And now I know what the something missing was. But because there's this idea out there of, I have to find my purpose, and there's purpose coaches and books and lots of different things out there that lean into this idea that there is this one purpose. And I now know that it's not about the finding your one purpose in life, why you came down here, but rather to live a life of purpose and to live a life where we feel on purpose. And so, because of the work, and you've spoken about this, and you have strategies that you help people to work with and everything. And so, this is what I would really love to hash out with you today on today's show is redefining this popular notion around what our purpose is, because I don't believe that it's one single thing, that it's more, as I said, about feeling on purpose and feeling of purpose throughout, like, every day and throughout our whole lives, regardless of what we're doing. Like, it's not one specific thing. What would you say?
So, well, there's definitely a couple of directions I could go from there. One of the things I would say is also this word passion ties into this as well. And so,
Hmm.
for me, one of the things that I talk about is how I think passion and purpose are even two different things. So,
Hmm.
what you're talking about as well, Teresa, the idea of what we're doing, to me, I often think a lot of people, when they think of what's my passion, they think of I have to figure out what I should be doing. So if they're, let's say, a photographer, then taking pictures, that's my passion. Or if you're a stand-up comic, getting on stage and telling jokes, that's my passion. First thing I think that's a challenge is people are led to believe you have to be doing something like that to, as you said, experience a full life. So for me, because I kind of define passion as two different things. And so for me, passion is what you're doing. So that things I just mentioned, like speaking on a stage, writing, whatever it is. Purpose to me is maybe why you're doing it. So to create a positive ripple for other people or whatever that looks like. And then when I say uncovering your why, to me, your why is the thing that allows you, as you mentioned, to basically always live on purpose. So, in other words, I think it's more than just what am I doing? It's more than just why am I doing it? It's actually finding a way that you feel fulfilled all the time because as you said it,
Hmm.
you're living on purpose versus with a purpose. If that makes sense. But I actually go even deeper into the definition because people always ask me, how can I find a passion that'll pay the bills? And what they're really
Hmm.
saying in a lot of ways is, how can I find the thing again, and insert whatever you want here, writing a
Hmm.
book
Hmm.
is going to pay the bills. But I think, and I'll tell people, I think that's first of all the wrong question. Because if you're trying to find a thing that you love doing, that time stands still, that you don't watch the clock, first of all, you shouldn't be looking for the thing that's going to pay you money to do it. Because if it makes you fulfilled
Hmm.
every day, all day, I think that stuff will come anyway. So I know I went way further down the rabbit hole that you're asking because I do actually think the what and the why are two different things. But I also agree with you that maybe we
Hmm.
need to stop because somebody else said you have to find it. So that's
Hmm.
like I said, I definitely go deep down to the rabbit hole in those areas.
Yeah, because there is this popular culture idea of what is my purpose? What is my purpose? And that we came from a soul perspective, we came here to learn, grow, and expand. That is what our soul is doing every single moment. And life is providing those opportunities to learn, grow, and expand. And so when you know that it's not about a one single thing, because obviously we're learning, growing, and expanding through every opportunity that we're being presented with, every interaction that we have, every single day when we have another opportunity to get up and make our way through the world, that our soul is going to find a way to help us to learn, grow, and expand through challenges, through difficulties, through whatever, so that that'll happen. And so, and what all of that is really doing is always showing us more about who we are. So if we looked at life as like, how is life today providing me the opportunity to learn more about who I really am? And that is the purpose for us coming and having that this human experience, is that how can we learn more about our gifts, our superpowers? It's that every opportunity is going to provide us with that kind of like mirror reflection to say, wow, I didn't know I had it in me. I didn't know that I could be so like patient, or so, or patient, or courageous, or bold, or whatever that opportunity is allowing you to kind of rise to the occasion, to bring something outside of yourself to say, Wow, that's really cool that I was able to like learn that about myself, and that if and so oh my god, there's just so much so much that I want to talk to you about. But if we could expand this idea of, us finding this one true thing, and then our life would feel complete, as you said, that then I can, like, one day when I die, I was like, I discovered what my purpose was, that it's not one true thing, that I think it would make us feel a lot better. So please respond to that, because then I have an interesting story that I want to tie into that.
Well, I don't want to just pose a question back to you, but I have a question for you. So, with when you talk about learn, grow, and expand, I'm curious. One of the other areas for me that's really a big part of it, and this is just for me to feel that I'm being fulfilled and living a rich life, is serve. So, where would you put serve into learn, grow, and expand? I'm just
Mm.
curious if you have a
And it,
place that you put
and
it
it's,
in there.
and it's, yeah, and it's through the serving that 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 is that we are constantly learning from the people that we are working with. That we're always teachers and learners, and that every person that I interact with, I know that it's either the opportunity for me to share something that I know, or it's for them to share something that I need to know. That it's always this beautiful cycle of being able to learn about others, but also learning about yourself, because every opportunity is really mirroring who you are, and where they're showing you something that is really about yourself. Like, that's even just going kind of deeper into like who makes up our everyday learning experience. But it's absolutely, yeah, tied into the serving of like how, for me, every day is how may I serve. That's how I approach every day. How can I make the world a better place, because I'm in it. And all of us, we all have our special guests and gifts and superpowers that we're here to share with the world, and to allow like spirit to work through us to make the difference that we need to make. And then it's through the making of that difference, that we're able, again, it's the learning, growing, expanding, always showing us more about ourselves.
So, and I will. You asked another question, so I won't skirt that question as well. I will come back. I just wanted to ask you about the serve part. But as far as my feeling around it, I mean, I'm in agreement with the idea that we need to get away from this idea that it should be about, and like you said, whatever that thing is, it's going to be different for different people. But we are sort of told by people often these days that if you don't find your purpose, or you don't find your calling, or you don't find your passion, or whatever that looks like, that you're not living a fulfilled life. And I think we run a big risk, because we hear the numbers, like when people say less than 95% of people ever find their purpose, they're talking about a thing. Like, they're talking about find a thing.
Yeah.
And so when we hear those numbers, it's almost like, well, I must not be living a fulfilled life because I'm one of the 95%. But again, if we change the definition of what that is, maybe it becomes easier for people and more, what would you call it, chewable. The idea that that we're actually going to be able to do this, versus when it's to find the
Mhm.
thing. You could be on a search for your whole life and feel like I've never found it. But to your
Mhm.
point, if we're not having to search like that, and maybe we realize it doesn't have to be the thing, maybe it becomes easier.
Mhm.
Maybe it doesn't seem so terrifying, and maybe it doesn't, for most people, feel like, well, I'm failing life somehow because I haven't found the thing.
Mhm.
So I,
Yes,
I'm
thank
totally on the
you.
same page. I do. I mean, I'd be remiss to say I do the things, but for me, the things like are different all the time. So I actually thrive on
Mhm.
the idea that any day could be different for me. So some of the things I do, it could be writing, speaking, could be being on the interviewing somebody else. But I also performed stand up comedy for years, play music in used to play music in clubs, and so the thing for me is always changing. But I'm still getting the, as
Mhm.
you said, the learn, grow, and expand from all of them.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Because that's what I want to try to get across, is that it's not a one single, that it's multiple things, that when we're doing it, we feel on purpose. We feel that we're in the right place at the right time and we're exactly where we need to be. So there was, like a client of mine that is a mother, and her whole life is wrapped around bringing her kids to soccer and helping at school, and even like her friends are all tied to her kids' friends, and lunches and all the stuff that, like, when you're at home and your kids are small and all of that. And she's like, well, I don't know if I feel like I'm living my purpose. And it's like, but do you feel like at this point in your life that when you are going to the soccer games and you're present for your kids to help them with their homework and school interviews and all those other things, that you feel happy doing it? Do you feel happy when you're there and that you're doing what you're doing for your kids at this point in your life? And she's like, yeah, I do. And it's like, well, right now, at this point of your life, this is the purpose. Like, this is your purpose right now, is to be a mother and to be the best mom that you want to be for your kids. And the purpose that you're serving in their life by being who you are and where you are at this time. And so it was like, it's like this huge release, right? To say, oh, wow, that it's not again like this big grandiose thing that we think it is. Like, oh, I have to go and help, like, the homeless in like the other part of the world. And I have to like, it's that it's none of that, that it is moment by moment where we feel happy. And so as a happiness coach, for me, happiness is that compass that we can use, that feeling of happiness within us to tell us, are we on purpose? So when I said to her, like, do you feel happy doing what you're doing every day? And she's like, yeah, I do. So it's like, okay, then that is how you know that you're on purpose. And so just to tie into the example that you said, that every day provides you with, you don't know where you're going to be or what you're going to be doing, but while you're doing it, it feels right. Like you feel happy doing it. It feels exciting to be doing it. Then then yes, I'm on purpose doing this, doing that, or whatever all those activities are.
Yeah, and to that point, everybody's different. I know we hear so much about, for example, people talking about how TV is terrible for you. Me, for example, I just shared with you some of the stuff I do. I feel I live a really full life, but I'm okay if I'm watching a new TV show that I'm following for an hour a day, because to me, that's okay. Like, meaning when I'm there for that minute, I still feel joy. So to me, that's still my purpose at that moment. And I could be
Yeah.
watching a show that I learned something really cool from, that, for example, my girlfriend, I remember her and I were watching Bruce Lee Enter the Dragon one time, and she had never seen it. And at the end of it, we both said, like, who would have thought you could learn so much from a Hollywood movie because of all his quotes in the movie and when you watch what he was doing and how it was written. And so to me, that's even enriching as well. I mean, I think that if all you do is watch TV, well, maybe that's your purpose, maybe that's your choice. That's one thing altogether. But if it's actually your moment to just kind of let your mind take a break, besides meditation,
Mhm.
your mind to take a break, and maybe you want that 1 hour of outlet a day, I also don't judge that either. Like, in other words, that could be part of my day. So I don't want, when I say those things,
Mhm.
Teresa, I don't want people to think like it's always jump into a car and drive to a comedy club performing, or jumping out of an airplane. It could be just sitting on the couch watching a Netflix show.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Or watching your kids play soccer or hockey, and totally there in the moment and just feeling like I am exactly where I need to be in this moment. Also, what I've thought about purpose as well, which I've I've said, but I'm more inclined to believe what we've been talking about. But also, because of that void and that something missing within myself, that I was then thinking about, maybe I'm not living my true purpose because of this popular notion around it. It is that I wasn't sure if it was tied to that, because I for me, purpose is I think that because of all of the programming and limiting beliefs and conditioning and habits that many of us have, and I can look them as cloaks, that for me, I had reached a point in my life that I had lost myself, and I wasn't living authentically. I was wearing different masks. I was trying to be who I needed to be in different situations and to different people. That be- that the something was missing was the real me in my life. And so I then felt, well, what about if purpose was for us to uncover who we really are, that to take off the mask, to do away with the limiting beliefs and the programming, conditioning, and paradigms that are limiting who we are, to get to that crossroad in our life. We were like, we wake up to who we really are and say, wow, I'm not living authentically. And then that the purpose is to, number one, to uncover who we really are, to number two, discover who we were really meant to be in this lifetime. What about if that's the whole purpose? That for us to reach a point where we wake up to our true and authentic selves, and then to discover who that is and who we were meant to be in this lifetime. What about if that's the work?
And I believe it could be. It's interesting. I mean, I talked to somebody the other day about it. At the end of the day, there's so many. I'm going to say in the world, we have so many different beliefs that I never want to say one is fully 100% all right. So, meaning like that's
Mhm.
100% accurate because there's conflicting beliefs. So, then you be questioning which one's accurate. And I think it's whatever one we truly believe and are fully dialed into. That's the one that's accurate for us. But I say all this to say, I heard this story one time, not story, somebody, a suggestion somebody made was maybe, and I brought him up, so I'll add him again, but Bruce Lee, somebody mentioned that he died so young, but maybe it was because he figured out who he was quicker than the rest of us. Like maybe he was on
Yeah.
his last. We talked about maybe reincarnation. If you believe in that, maybe he was on his last one or whatever. But this person said, I believe that some of these enlightened people die earlier because they figured it out. And so that would back up your point, right? Like maybe and if you look at his teachings and philosophy, I mean, I can't remember his age now, but it was like 31 or 29 or something. If you look into his philosophies, he was like 1,000 years ahead of where he should have been. So maybe he
Mhm.
was, maybe it reached for him, he had reached that pinnacle and figured out who he was. And, maybe then
Yeah.
we're done. And so maybe you're right. Like maybe some people go 100 years and never figure it out. And then maybe there's the
Yeah.
odd person like him that figures it out really early. So yeah,
Mhm.
I'm totally open to that being a possibility.
Yes, yes, that the whole purpose is really to discover. Again, it goes back to the learning, growing, and expanding. So that's why I was like more inclined to say that every opportunity is doing that for us so that we can discover who we were meant to be in this lifetime. That when we came, we are like, okay, our soul knows all of the things that we came down here to learn. And that as we're learning it to lend, to your point that that there it's time for you to go because now you've learned that you said in this lifetime, these are the things that I want to overcome or discover about myself. And I did that. And so now it's like, okay, I can return back to, maybe where I came from. But um, that and so that I feel like this is if we can look at purpose more through this lens of feeling on purpose, feeling in touch with who we really are, discovering more about ourselves in whatever way that is, like watching a movie, that it gives you an opportunity to just kind of like step back a moment and evaluate your own life about like how what you're doing, or things that maybe are not like going well in your life, and that movie provided that instant of reflection for you to look and say, oh wow, maybe I need to go about this a little bit differently or whatever. And again, it's like you being exactly in the right place at the right time. We've run out of time, but I would love for you to share how people can get in touch with you, because you have many courses and like a whole bunch of offerings, which are absolutely fantastic, which is how you and I met. And so I would love for you to share those ways that people can connect with you.
I feel like I like to give a gift when I can. So I feel like the easiest way is I can send people to thepassioncure.com and then slash Corey, Corey. So thepassioncure.com/Corey, Corey. And if people go there, they can get an exercise that I talk about in my book, The Book of Why and How, which is about how to choose who you spend your time with. It's not even as much choosing. It's just doing almost an inventory of who are you actually spending your time with, and are they adding really positive energy into your life, or maybe are some adding negative energy, and then you can kind of see where you're at and if you have to adjust accordingly. But it's just an exercise, and I always think, if we have an exercise, it's a win for us. It's a little win if we take the time to do that. So I'd love to give that to people for free. And if you go there and grab that, then you'll be in my network anyway. We'll get to know each other.
Mhm. Thank you, Corey. Thank you for being on the show today and helping us to redefine the way we look at purpose in our life.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Teresa. It's so amazing to watch your rise continue. So thanks for all the great work you're doing, and thanks for all the great energy you bring into the world. My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
Stay tuned, as after the break, I'll be speaking with Corbie about what purpose means to her and how we can know if we're living ours.
6 years ago, when I started Solivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose so they can become the best version of themselves, to battle fear and ignorance, and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit solivity.com now.
Hi there, Sheila Applegate here with some exciting news. I've joined the incredible Soulivity team as the host of the new Consciously Awesome live show, where I will be sharing insights to help you discover your full brilliance and claim the vibrant life you deserve. So tune in every Wednesday right here on Soulivity TV to join the fun, and remember to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a single episode. Have an awesome week, and I will see you on Wednesday.
Solivity Magazine and Beyond Words Publishing want to remind you about the importance of continuing to follow public health guidelines to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your community. Please continue to wear a mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance. Please visit these sites for further information about how to stay safe from COVID-19 into the new year. Remember, love protects us.
Welcome back. I'm thrilled to introduce my next guest. She's a psychic medium, intuitive counselor, ordained minister, and author. Corbie Mitleid, hello and welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. Thanks for asking.
Now, Corbie, on today's show, we are talking about purpose and the ways that we can know if we're on purpose rather than this idea of fulfilling our one life's true purpose. As an intuitive
Yes.
counselor, I really wanted to dive deeper into what true purpose means from a soul level. That as spiritual beings having a human experience, understanding what our souls desire to learn, grow, and expand from here in this life changes the way we look at the idea of purpose. And so, with your work as an intuitive counselor and medium, I would really love to talk about how this might be different from, say, the pop or popular society idea of what purpose is. So, what does purpose mean from our soul level?
Purpose from our soul level is, in a sense, karma, but not carrot and stick, bad and good. That is the kindergarten way of looking at it. The work that I did with Robert Schwartz in his series on pre birth planning and life between lives, karma is actually 5 things: unbalanced energy, which is a neutral, healing, service, contrast, and healing of beliefs. It's important that you see whatever happens to you, you chose ahead of time, you set it up, the people in your lives, the people who trip your triggers. This was all part of the game plan because the soul sees this as a role it plays. We are the personality, we're the part it plays in this one particular life. Plays have a script, so do we.
Yes, I love this. I'm so excited to talk to you more about this because I also believe that all of us have soul contracts with each other. And as you said, that we're playing this part, and that before we came to earth with the souls or those in our soul tribe that we have the closest relationships, that we set up this idea to say, okay, you're going to play this role because you're going to help me to learn this lesson, which is going to bring about the awareness of certain gifts and potentials and superpowers within me. And that when we know that each of us are playing certain roles in each other's lives to allow people to rise the occasion, it's like looking at it from a whole different perspective.
It is, and it helps us not judge others. I'll give 2 examples. The first one is someone else, the other will be me. People will probably remember Ryan White, the boy who got AIDS very early in the epidemic, late 80s, early 90s. And people didn't understand then what happens with AIDS. He got it from a blood transfusion. But because people were terrified of it, his family was treated like pariahs. He wasn't allowed in school, but he stayed positive and upbeat. Now, look over here in England, you have Elton John, who was drinking and drugging and basically destroying himself fast. He met Ryan and Ryan's family, became very close friends with them. When Ryan died, he played at Ryan's funeral. He was so moved. Ryan inspired him to get clean from the drink and the drugs, and it's been over 30 years. And then Elton created the Elton John AIDS Foundation, which since then has raised $500 million for HIV and AIDS research globally. The old way would have been, oh, he was such a bad person. Look at that bad karma he had. But the reality is that soul said, short life, real painful, but look at what I can cause as a result. So that was karma of service. And Ryan was a very courageous soul.
Wow.
Now, with me,
That is amazing.
yeah. When you look at it that way, everything turns. With me, I would say I'm 80-20. 80% of my lives are usually male, 20 female, because we have to live both sides. And I came in this time because I needed to learn females are valuable. The female body does not define you, and it's not a bargaining chip. So I came in literally by the time I was 11, I was a brunette Dolly Parton figure. Stick a brunette on Dolly, and that was me. When I was 16, an incident happened with my mother, who was emotionally abusive, alcoholic, cross-addicted with barbiturates. I could have heard what she said and gone in two different directions. One to prove her wrong, but the one I chose was she must know more about me than I did, which set me on a decades-long spiraling downward path of divorces and abuse and rape and all kinds of horrible things. Now, during that time, I got breast cancer 3 times. First time was lumpectomies and radiation. This is while I was acting in New York and doing a 60-hour-a-week job to bring in the money and rehearsals. Survived it. In 2000, skin cancer from the radiation surgery. They were scarred. They were misshapen, but they were still there. But I still wasn't getting a click. 2002, I married my wonderful husband. 20th anniversary this year. 2004, I got third bout of cancer, second primary. So the doctor said, we're turning the clock back to 0, danger-wise, but 3 strikes, you're out. So we're taking the rack, we're taking your ovaries, and you're going from this Dolly Parton figure to a fat fire plug with permanent side effects in 3 weeks. Suck it up. Now, did I go home and cry for 24 hours? Yes. But living the examined life, I knew I had to figure out something to be okay with it. So I said 3 things, don't care how stupid they are. Number 1, you don't have them, you can't get cancer there. Number 2, the top half is not going to get slammed in the refrigerator door at the doctor's every year, and every woman listening knows exactly what I'm talking about. 3, implants, I'll be perky till I'm 93. 6-hour operation, walked out of Mass General in 3 days, shopped for a bathing suit in 5. It's 2022, I'm 67. I teach with it now, and I have learned who I am with a normal figure. And as a matter of fact, I like her better. So, no, I don't ever say I fought cancer, because what you fight fights back. And I am not a survivor because I hang on by a lot more than teeth and toenails. I'm a cancer dancer. I found out how graceful I could be under pressure. I avoided getting my toe stepped on, and I got off the dance floor in one piece. That's an examined life. That's living your purpose and teaching that resilience to others, which is a lot of what I do. It's always ask yourself 3 questions. What am I X about? Happy, sad, depressed. Why am I X about that? And the question we never ask ourselves, what do I think would happen if I stopped being X about that? When I stopped being a victim dealing with the cancer and decided I was going to make it part of the dance and part of my learning and part of my teaching syllabus, everything changed.
Wow. So, so powerful. And that it's so the opposite of, this big grandiose ideas. There are people out there that are purpose coaches and books that are all about finding your one true big thing, right? And when you to say that through all of the trials and tribulations and all the learning that you got from that, when you said that was my purpose, it was like, wow, that example is not what stereotypically you would think that somebody would say, because we're looking for, like, you have to be a superstar or a big known author, or like, who knows, right? What people think. Even me, for that was one of the questions that was part of my happiness journey at the very beginning, that I asked myself, was I living my life's true purpose and full potential? Because I felt like something was missing in my life, that there was a void in my life that I didn't understand, because I had achieved all the things that family, culture, religion tell you that you should achieve. So, fulfilling career, healthy family, beautiful home, cars in the driveway, vacation years, all these things. And and still feeling like I haven't found my purpose. And even there was another guest that said that he has a client, also in her 60s, and says that she still feels like she hasn't found her purpose. So apparently, statistically, 97% of people reach the end of their life and feel like they haven't found their purpose. So we need to squash this, Corbie. We need to squash this idea of what living our life purpose really is. That um, through your example, it definitely goes contra what our idea is of what purpose is. So please expand and tell us more about how we can understand and really grasp that idea of how moment by moment the things that happen to us mean that we're on purpose. How do we know that what's happening to us is on purpose, or that if it's going contra, maybe, right? Many of us are not living the life we came here to lead, and we know it. Physically, we know it. Emotionally, mentally, we know it. I believe depression on a very deep level is knowing that we're not living the life we came here to live. That on a
Yes.
very deep level, it's like, I didn't come here for this. This is not the life that I designed with my other souls. That when we came here, this is not what I came here to do, and to who to be. So please share more.
When you say this is not my life's purpose, you're basically saying to Carmen, "You're not the boss of me. You're not." And when you come to a site and say, "I don't know, just tell me my life person." What if I said, "You're supposed to be an electrical engineer and you're lousy at math?" It's one of the reasons why I tell people they need to find their sentence of passion. That generally will work on where your purpose is. For instance, we talked about my purpose being self acceptance. Women are valuable. From that learning, I found my own sentence of passion, which is cross the bridge from fear to fearlessness and fly. When I help somebody go from point A to point B when they thought they couldn't make it, I live my bliss. And it doesn't matter whether I'm a psychic or an executive recruiter or writing for a graphic novel series. The sentence of passion, which comes from understanding the karmic challenges we came in to work on, to solve, to burnish. That's when you get to get up every morning. You don't have to get up every morning. You know, my very favorite saying kind of flips into what you talked about in the intro of the show. It's from a book called Time Enough for Love by Robert Heinlein. And the quote is, "In life, moderation is for monks. Take big bites. Don't be afraid to go after what you want with both hands and your whole heart. Who said you couldn't? You." And, we women are told we don't know what we want in our 40s and 50s and 60s, because when we're kids, we're constantly told that whatever we think we want, whatever we think is important, is wrong. And there's always a trigger. You want the cookie, your mother says, "Oh, you wanted the big one. You're selfish and you're bad. And I'm giving it to your brother because anyway, girls who eat cookies get fat. Nobody likes a fat girl. Do you really want to eat the cookie?" Do you see how we are negatively programmed? You got to
Mhm.
trash that. The only one who is your expert is the one in the mirror. That person has lived your challenges, walked through your fires, found out about their resilience. And never be afraid to ask the questions. Be what I call a happy Martian detective, which is complete non-judgment. You just walk into a situation. If I was sitting with you and you had tears coming out of your eyes, I might say, "Why are you crying?" That's my conditioning. A Martian who knows from nothing would look up at you and go, "Why is there water coming from your eyes?" And the Martian might be correct because maybe your contact lenses are bugging you, or maybe you have an allergy, or maybe there's an emotional basis. When we fearlessly ask questions, seeing the questions are the joy of learning, we are going to find our purpose and hear our karmic challenge and be able to work with it and mold it so much faster than if we think we have to be what everyone else told us we were supposed to be.
Thank you so much for that. Because so my view on happiness is that we are love, peace, and happiness at our core. It is our essential nature that you see that in children, and you see the innate curiosity and limitless potential and possibility, and the curiosity that you talked about in asking the questions. There they are. Why? Why? You say something. Why? Why? That's
I
them. So
know.
when you gave that example, it's like, I'm always like, the world takes us away from that innate curiosity that we come into this world and the limitless possibility that every moment and everything provides. That when they go to that Tupperware and pot drawer in the kitchen and the spoons, and they're making drums, and the spoon is a sword and a wand and a drumstick, and it's like, everything is everything, like, and capable of everything, and it's limitless, and
Mhm.
that gets taken away from from us. And so I love what
It
you just
is,
said about that.
think of it this way. Um, Ancient times, little Chinese girls, they had normal feet. Then mom started binding them to keep them small. And they lost their ability to run and they lost their ability to stand. They had adorable little feet. They were this big, but they were powerless to move on their own. That's what these limitations do to us. We come in ready to rock and roll, ready to just explore life. But the more we believe what other people tell us about ourselves, the more we believe they know more than we do, we lose that ability to move forward to the point where our life looks adorable, but where can we go with it? Nowhere. Refuse to be bound by other people's expectations. Uh, my favorite mantra, use it, folks. Thank you for sharing. You may think that if you wish, and then go do what you know you need to do.
Thank you, thank you. Now, all of this to add on, it reminded me of a story of a friend of mine that said to me, so she gets involved in these different, like, multi-level marketing companies, right? That you
MLM.
can,
Yep.
with a little
Yep.
investment, and you can own your own business, and you try it for a while and you decide it's not really for you. And so she's tried a couple of those, and so now she's curious about another one, and she's like, well, I don't want to tell my family about it because they're just going to say, oh, that's like all the other ones you ever did, and you'll never be successful at that. And I said, stop. I said, every opportunity that we engage in teaches us more about ourselves. All the companies that you were a part of all taught you more about who you are, what you like and what you don't like. Abraham Hicks is constantly about that life is just about sorting, not about whether, like as you said, it's not about good or bad, or a negative or a positive. We have polarity and duality here, that we do that, but really it's neutral, as you said with the Martian. It's just a
Yes.
neutral, but we attribute positive and negative to a lot of things for that duality.
Mhm.
And so it's a constant sorting about, is it for you? Do you like it? Is this something you want to pursue? So even the things that don't work out are just a learning experience to lead you back on path to who you really are in the life that you wanted. And I look at happiness as that compass, that when we
Yes.
feel on purpose, when it feels right to us, when we
Mhm.
feel that, like that feeling throughout our whole body, that is like tingling and butterflies, and that energy is like, you know you're on purpose because you
Hmm.
can feel it. And when you're not, you feel it too. It's tight
Yes.
stomach, it's cramping, it's like you want to contract. It's like a totally different experience than the learning, growing, and expansion that an opportunity can provide you. So, Corby, can you tell us more about how can we know that any situation, whether positive or negative, is us being on path? How can all our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual self communicate with us to say, even in the negative experience, like what happened that happened to you, um,
Hmm.
have meant that you're on path, you're on purpose.
Number one, God does not do gracious. What's a gracia? It's a Yiddish expression for sticking in the knife and making sure it's in there real good.
Mm.
God does not do gracious. We are here to learn. You have to learn with duality. You have to learn with contrast. If you're in a white room with white curtains and white walls and you're in a white dress, you don't understand blue. Eskimos have 250 words for snow, but not one for palm tree. It's not there. So you use the difficulties, you use the problems as stepping stones for learning. Um, excuse me. One of the things I would tell your friend, stay away from people who live in Neverland. You'll never make it. That's not right. I know you're just, again, remember the thank you for sharing and go live your life. Aim your telescope at what you want. Stay clear. That's how you live your purpose and your joy. And you get to get up every morning. You don't have to get up every morning. And that's key.
Ah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love that Neverland. It's so true. And we often live there too. What I'm actively working on
Mhm,
now is staying in the present moment, because that's where happiness is, and not having
mhm.
the past inform my present moment and ruin the moment that is filled of possibilities. That when an opportunity comes, it can be anything. But then I allow the
Yes.
Neverland to come in and say, oh, it'll never work out. Oh, you're not smart enough to do that. Oh, you're not skilled enough, because it's all of that. Everyone else, including your own inner critic that's limiting you and
Mhm.
self sabotaging you and deterring you, that this is why it's important for us to be connected to our spiritual self, that in our
Yes.
spiritual self is where those superpowers reside. For me, it's that
Yes.
inner magic, that secret part of us that
Mhm.
society wants to say is weird and woo woo and doesn't exist and all of that. Oh no, it exists and it's powerful and it's limitless
It
and it's
is.
awesome. Please.
I'll tell you, tool. Whenever you feel that you're kind of beating up on yourself, I want you to get a cheap pair of glasses, just magnifiers, and go look in the mirror and do this. We've all gotten the hairy eyeball look from teachers and parents, and it means, will you cut? So you are to look at yourself in the mirror and do this and realize what you're doing to yourself. Roll it back, start it over. You cannot get it wrong in this life. You simply can't.
And I'm going to end on that. I love that. You cannot get it wrong. It's perfect. Now, Corby, if people want to connect with you after the show, how can they do that?
Oh, well, they can't avoid me. I'm all over the internet. CorbieMitleid.com is my website. You can find me YouTube, Patreon, Medium, Pinterest, Instagram. All of it is CorbieMitleid.com, and I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing the ways that we can know that we're living the life we came here to live.
It was a pleasure.
I'd like to leave you with the thought for the day. If we're not feeling happy in our life, we need to ask ourselves whether we feel on purpose doing the things we do every day. Do we feel authentic? Do we feel like we are living our true self? Or are we living our lives with many shoulds and have tos, where we find ourselves saying, I should do this because my parents expect this of me? or I have to do this because that's what a good daughter does. It is impossible to feel on purpose and be inauthentic at the same time. I'm going to say that again. It is impossible to feel on purpose and be inauthentic at the same time. If you check in with your happiness at any moment, your emotions will tell you whether you are on purpose in that moment or not. Through the various principles and practices I adopted on my happiness journey, I came to realize that my lack of happiness and fulfillment with my life and the feeling that something was missing didn't stem from me not living my purpose. The truth of what was missing in my life was the real me. I was not living as my authentic self, but rather as the person I thought other people wanted me to be, and trying to be the perfect wife, mother, daughter, sister, employee, friend, or whoever I needed to be. I wasn't showing up in all areas of my life the way I needed to, and this led to the void that I felt. Are you feeling like there's something missing in your life? Are you searching for your passion and purpose? Ask yourself whether you are showing up in your life as your true, authentic self. Is the real you at work? Is the real you out with friends? Is the real you on social media? Because the chances are that the something missing in your life could be your authentic self in every moment of every day, and not one single thing you've been searching for and haven't found. I now know that my understanding of purpose, which I had come to understand from others, needed to be adjusted. I no longer needed to search for my one true purpose, but instead to check in with myself at any given moment and ask myself whether I feel on purpose with what I am doing, and I use my happiness as a guide. The truth is, whatever it is that we're searching for outside of ourselves always exists within us. We just need to go inward to discover it. Thank you for joining me today on the Steps to Happiness show, and I look forward to being here again with you next week.
Connect with Teresa Greco after the show for coaching, workshops, and speaking engagements. You can visit her website at teresagreco.ca or by email at stepstotruehappiness@gmail.com or follow her on Instagram at TeresaGreco_Steps to Happiness or on Facebook at Steps to True Happiness with Teresa Greco.